Season 54, War number 5, and we're up against Pycb. This time my team will be Silk, Shocker and Onslaught. I will be taking path 9 in section 1, path 9 in section 2, then a Shocker, a Punisher 2099, and Bullseye, Onslaught, as well as a Prowler mini-boss, and finally the Enchantress boss as well, using Silk. And no, I will not be using Shocker for a single fight this war. I know some people are excitedly waiting for some Shocker gameplay, but this war is not gonna be one that has any. Now starting off, we have a Mojo on the Hazard Shift, Incinerate and Poison node, along with Blood in the Water, and I will be taking the fight with Silk. Now, Mojo is a tactic defender, and Silk having the decay tactic means that every time I make contact with Mojo, I trigger those wither debuffs on him, and then, with all the debuffs on them, I basically take 0 damage from the Hazard Shift nodes, or Mojo's degeneration if I ever have to trigger any. Silk doesn't get any buffs, so getting the degens would mean fully ramping up this Mojo, and to be quite honest, he does not have the health pool to survive that long in this fight. A single special 2 here in roughly 30 seconds into the fight, and down he goes. I only took a tiny bit of damage from the first Incinerate debuff I got, because I didn't have enough debuffs at the time to completely shut down the damage, but even then I finished with essentially full health. Then we have a Korg on the Hazard Shift, Incinerate and Poison node along with Power Focus 1, and then the Indestructible whenever the attacker reaches a bar of power, and I am taking this fight with Onslaught. Onslaught doesn't take any damage from Incinerates, they in fact ramp up his Neuroshocks on the opponent. However, he does not have any way to protect himself against poison debuffs, so essentially the plan is to avoid hitting the defender during the poison phase as much as possible, then utilize the Incinerates for a quick ramp up for a huge special 2. As you can see, the degen is more than enough to close out this fight. All I gotta do is just, well, dance around for a few more seconds and down he goes. Again, finished the fight with essentially full health, took a little bit of poison for that single hit I landed during the poison phase. Naturally it would trigger the poison debuff on the first one, so... well, either way it didn't really do too much, don't even need to use a potion for that. Then we have a Spider-Ham on the Hazard Shift, Shock and Bleed node, along with Power Focus 2, and I will be taking this fight with Silk. Spider-Ham is not a tactic defender, so my access to debuffs, well, Silk has many of them, but they also fall off very quickly, and that means any Hazard Shift debuff I get from the first or second hit in my combo will still deal some damage, so I am not completely protected against the Hazard Shift node here. With that said though, the damage is not gonna be too high, and even then I do still have willpower to keep me topped up for the most part, due to the taunt debuff from Spider-Ham Special 1, as well as any Hazard Shift debuffs I get on me with the decay tactic preventing all the damage, as you can see. Now the Spider-Ham himself is a bit of an annoying defender on these Hazard Shift nodes, and well, on this one specifically, because the Special 2 is something you really don't want to bait at all in a fight against Spider-Ham, but with Silk's auto evade it is fairly safe to do so. I could have gone for the Special 2 rotation here to try to nuke the fight, but doing so risks getting power stings on you, and I didn't really want to deal with all of that, so instead I just did the safe thing and only spammed Special 1 as soon as I got it, to limit how much nonsense Spider-Ham would get in the fight. Then we have a Kindred on the Hazard Shift, Shock and Bleed node, along with One Eye Open, and I'm taking this fight with Silk. The Hazard Shift node is completely dealt with here due to the withers being on the opponent constantly, and that's about all there is to this fight, honestly. Now, one thing I have to mention here is that the decay tactic does not prevent the damage from One Eye Open. While it does work on the damage reflection on path 7 as well as Mysterio Special 1, it will not counter the damage reflection on One Eye Open, so do not try to use your heavy stun in this matchup if you're using Silk. You will eat the damage, there's no way around that. With that said though, Kindred is really not all that tanky, so even without the extra damage from the heavy attacks, they go down very easily, no degen damage to worry about, and no hazard shift debuffs to worry about either. All the damage is covered by the tactic that is, well, quite frankly overpowered in my opinion, but I am having fun, so I'm not complaining about that. Then we have the Shocker here on the Event Flow Knockdown right back at it nodes, the mini-boss node, and I am taking this fight with Silk, same as last war. Now this time around I do have the Shocker synergy myself, so I do have a bit more damage on my behalf here, but regardless the fight is not gonna be all that fast, and honestly I could play this a bit better than I will. Now, as usual, or as previously, I am gonna try to only bait this guy's special 2s to avoid ramping him up fully, because I really don't wanna deal with the unblockable mediums or any of that, really. Now, again, I don't know how to dex this guy's special 2s, I don't know how I did it the last war so consistently, but this time around I'm not having as much luck with it, and I'm consuming the evade on basically every single special 2 I bait. And that means that to be safe, baiting more special 2s, I need to get the evade off of the cooldown every time I want to bait a special 2. So I do need to land those combo hits, gotta land 20 between each special 2 I bait, just to be safe, because as you can see those prowesses, they do stack up very quickly. So if I don't have the evade, I just have to block the special, and Shocker specials hit very hard even through the block. So to avoid that, I am trying to manage my combo the best as I can to keep the evade up at all times. Now here he has the ramp up for unblockable mediums, but they only go unblockable on his dash forward. So if I stay close to him, he will not be able to utilize that ability. And that's essentially the plan to finish out the rest of this fight. Stay close, use a parry for an opening there for one more combo, close out the fight, and don't even allow him the chance to try to stun lock me at the end, because my luck with Shockers before have not been great. Anytime I've gotten clipped even by accident, I believe I've just gotten stun locked until I was dead, so that is something I would like to avoid going forward. Playing the fights as safe as I can. Then next up here we have a Punisher 2099 on the Scared Steve and Purpose 2 miniboss node along with Bubble Shield, and I will be taking the fight with Silk. Silk is a great option for this node in general due to her evade safety net allowing you to evade even the trickier specials on the Bubble Shield node. Even if they go unblockable, your evade will save you. However, there is one slight issue with this one. Punisher 2099 special 2 and bypasses evade, so that is something you do need to keep an eye on in this fight. You cannot bait it if Bubble Shield is about to make the opponent unblockable. To avoid that, I basically try not to let him use another special 2 in this fight, so instead bait a special 1 there, consume the unblockable beforehand, and now just try to nuke out the rest of the fight without needing to bait a single special. I go for the heavy here into a striker, trying to go for the special 3 rotation to close out the fight, but I forget about his power steal. He power locks me, power steals me, and I throw the special 2 after my full heavy attack, which then whiffs because of it, but luckily he dashed in towards me during my special 2, catching the tail end of it, and I didn't get punished because of that. But the special 2 itself also failed to finish out the fight, so had he thrown the special 2, it could have been a bit problematic, but I did manage to close out the fight without any other problems. And I gotta say that was a huge blunder on my part. It very well could have led to a death, and I'm lucky that it didn't. And then next up we have a Bullseye on the Shock and Incinerate node, or miniboss node, along with Insult to Injury and I believe Aggression Prowess as well. And I will be taking the fight with Onslaught. Now Onslaught, while he works very well for Bullseye, generally speaking, due to the Insult to Injury node combined with the hazard shift debuffs, this fight is not nearly as safe or easy as normal Bullseye fights are. Essentially, the Hazard node will keep me ramped up and will ramp me up freely while I try to get to my special 2. The Neuroshocks will keep stacking up on the opponent and I can still heavy punish his heavy attack for the long pause. However, I can't really land any parries here consistently, so I can't do anything about the evade, which is something you would normally do, especially in BGs taking this matchup. There I did also mess up a special 1 Dex, which luckily he didn't have enough prowess to completely nuke me down, but it was still a lot of damage taken, and I'm just happy I got out of the fight without any more mistakes. The matchup itself, I wouldn't consider it unsafe, but I'm sure there are better options than Onslaught, so maybe we need to rethink that one. Well, with that said, it did work out well enough this time around, and learning from my few mistakes there, I'm sure I could take the fight with less health loss going forward. Then we have an Onslaught on the power efficiency, and missing an action mini-boss node, and I am taking the fight with Silk. You see my Shocker there, I technically could have used him, however, due to the synergy with Silk, that makes Shocker's mediums inflict shock debuffs as well. And shock debuffs, you don't want to be inflicting those against Onslaught, because they will start triggering the Neuroshocks on the Shocker then, and that would be a ton of damage for absolutely no real reason, so to not have to deal with that, I'm simply doing the Silk Special 3 rotation here to be done with it. If the synergy didn't go both ways, I would definitely use Shocker here, even just to try him out. He is great for Onslaught, generally speaking, but the synergy kinda does hurt him in plenty of his more favorable matchups. Bishop and Onslaught are just few examples of matchups that he can't really do because of it, which is a little bit weird in my opinion. Synergy is hurting the champions they are built for. It's not all that common, but it does happen, and it does hurt to see. Regardless, Silk handled the fight just fine, and I don't mind using Silk at all for these wars. But I know people who are watching these war videos would like to see some Shocker gameplay after seeing him on the thumbnails and all of that, so I do apologize for that. It just didn't really work out this time around either. Then we have a Prowler here on the Stun Reflection and Polka Dot Power mini-boss node, and I'm taking the fight with Silk. Again, Silk does not bypass miss, so I can't punish the specials on this guy. Also, you can't evade his specials, so I basically have no safety nets here at all. I can't use my heavy charge because the stun from it would get reflected from Prowler to me, and I would get comboed and potentially nuked down because of it. So essentially, what I just gotta do here is play it slow, get my openings by baiting heavy attacks or by landing intercepts. I get some power here and there due to the Shocker synergy inflicting those rupture debuffs, but overall, most of my damage here will come from my basic attacks only. It's not gonna be the fastest fight, I will take some chip damage from the Brute Force node as well as blocking hits, but that's to be expected. Silk overall does handle the fight just fine, and I'm sure there are better options, but Silk, well, she already does most of the map anyway, so might as well take this one here as well. At least it makes it easier for the planners, so that we don't need to, well, try to juggle multiple people on the same fights to try to get everyone moving at the same time. It does make things easier when you can just take all the fights yourself, I must say. Anyways, down he goes. I'm gonna heal up a little bit here so that I can deal with the boss at full health, or at least close to it. Enchantress can be a bit scary as a boss, but overall Silk should handle it just fine. So here we have the final part of the war, an Enchantress boss that I will be taking with Silk, and yeah, Enchantress is not a tactic defender, so there will be no withers to help me out. If there were, or if I had enough access, or if I had an easier access to debuffs that actually stick around, I wouldn't really have to deal with the reflect damage from Enchantress, so I could technically just ignore the spells. That is also something that the decay tactic will handle, but generally speaking, against Enchantress, the best way to go about it is to just bait the special 3s and not worry about the spells at all. That was my game plan here as well, which is why I used the invulnerability boost. However, Enchantress, being, well, Enchantress, decides to throw the special 1 into my block. So instead of baiting the special 1 or the special 3, she's just throwing these special 2s or special 1s, which I then gotta deal with. Sorry, I'm all over the place at the moment. So, to deal with the spells, I gotta go for the heavy punishes, knockdowns, intercepts, all of that. Just trying to push her to her special 3s, tank those instead, slowly climb up to my special 2 for some more damage. Though overall, most of the damage in this fight will come from the rupture debuffs as well as basic attacks as usual. Now with her at the special 3, sure, it will waste some time. She will also power steal a full bar from me since I had a bar going into this, and that means it is expected that she will throw another special 1 soon enough. Surprisingly, she didn't throw it immediately following the special 3, which she does tend to do at times, so I was able to push her to a special 2 and then utilize Silk's auto evade for an easy punish on the special, getting the striker opening here as well, some more mediums of ruptures, followed by a special 2, which will not finish the fight because it didn't crit on any but a single hit. So now she's at 1%, throws another special 1 into my block, and now there's another set of spells I gotta deal with while she heals up with willpower. Few more hits and down she goes. Fight took over 2 minutes, so it was very slow, but Silk does handle it well enough. As for the results, we did end up winning the war 8-1, so we almost got a donut, but not quite. But even then, a win is a win, and we will take those.